Desperate times require desperate measures, and there's no greater desperate measure than for a world leader suffering all sorts of difficulties to meet the Pope. So anyway, I'll explain that to you in a moment. But first, the problem with President Zelensky is that he not only is lacking money, lacking soldiers, lacking military equipment, he's also lacking legitimacy. Previously, it was in the Russian circles where they doubted President Zelensky's ability to sign any final document. So basically, the Russians would be happy to sign an agreement with a Ukrainian leader, but one who's actually legitimate. So the Russians have questioned Zelensky's legitimacy, and that seemed to be it for a while. But now President Trump is starting to get on that bandwagon and to say that President Zelensky is basically missing legitimacy, that there need to be presidential elections in order to look for a legitimate leader of Ukraine, someone who can sign a peace document. So anyway, President Zelensky rolls into Italy and into the Vatican City to meet Pope Leo XIV to shore up his legitimacy. But also, the Pope is, if the U.S. is a security guarantee for Ukraine as kind of a backstop to any European force that would go in, the Pope is kind of a spiritual backstop to Ukraine. So Zelensky still needs the Pope to sing the song and to dance the dance while he's still in office, and can try to shore up some support for what's going on in Ukraine. So we even have the words of Pope Leo XIV here. So I'll just move down the page. So we have Pope Leo XIV saying, he also expresses hope that, and here's what's in quotations, the current diplomatic initiatives bring about a just and lasting peace. So what basically is a just and lasting peace? Just and lasting peace, at least in the terminology that the meaning that the Europeans have given this phrase, just and lasting peace, is the 1991 borders, means war crime trials for Putin, means reparations, means the return of Crimea, and blah blah blah. Okay, so that's the just and lasting peace, and the Pope is bought into that, and has repeated that phrase, bringing about a just and lasting peace. So President Zelensky is here, trying to get not only legitimacy, and he's trying to get the Vatican to be a spiritual backstop to whatever Ukraine does. This also is a desperate measure. So all I have to do is refer to a particular meeting that took place in 1866 between the then current Pope, I believe it was Pius the Ninth, and Empress Carlota of Mexico. So Empress Carlota, or Charlotte of Mexico, was put in power by a French military coup in Mexico. The elected government in Mexico was removed, and the French military, many of which had fought alongside Napoleon, had marched into Mexico City and had put Maximilian and Carlota and Charlotte in power. And at that point there was a revolt, pretty much from all sides, against the French forces, but also there was a strong fight against the church. So there were many who were looking to try to control the power of the church in Mexico, to take away its properties, to take away its financial power, because the church basically was in on this coup. And according to how the Mexican people saw that. So anyway, this would later lead in Mexico to the secular governments, which basically outlawed the church. But at this time, the Catholic Church was still quite powerful. The wealthy class, the landowning class, was in cahoots with the French, but all this was falling apart very quickly, and so the French, who had put Maximilian and Charlotte in power, had forces in Mexico, but it wasn't enough, and slowly they were being defeated by the very angry Mexicans. And so Maximilian sent Charlotte to Europe to get support from the different European monarchs, and she came up empty. And her last visit was to you know who. Yes, the Pope. So this was a desperation move on the part of Empress Charlotte. And after the Pope refused to provide the support that she was looking for, she basically went to the crazy home. She had a mental breakdown, and that was it for Empress Charlotte. So, and Maximilian had been captured and then was executed. So basically, when you meet the Pope, you're at the end of your rope. So you see Zelenskyy here meeting with Pope Leo the 14th, and you see he's maybe not so convinced. He's trying to be nice. I don't know. And Zelenskyy, he looks a little nutty. So he might be going the route of Charlotte if he doesn't get what he wants. But anyway, apparently it was an okay meeting. And if Zelenskyy stays in power in Ukraine, I'm sure he'll be back there again to try to shore up more support. And so, like I say, this whole meeting between the Pope and Zelenskyy was a desperation move. It's what you do when you have no more options. I don't know if it necessarily signals that the European powers have abandoned Zelenskyy, but you can see that the coalition of the willing never really turned out to be anything more than a bunch of huff and puff. And so why did he go to the Pope? Because he didn't have really any more options. And that's when you can start to see kind of the mental health issue probably coming into play. I don't know. But anyway, if the meeting between Charlotte and was it Pius IX in 1866 ended badly and she wound up going insane, will the same thing happen to Zelenskyy? I don't know. But anyway, I thought that was curious that now that he's not going to be getting the funds, the reparation loan, it looks very clear that this is not going to take place, and also the Europeans are not going to loan to Ukraine the big bucks that they thought that they were going to get from the EU. So he's out of money soon, probably early next year. He's running out of troops. He's running out of military support. President Trump is calling into question his legitimacy. So he's really starting to run out of options, and these desperation moves are probably going to be more and more common for Zelenskyy. So anyway, I thought I'd bring that to your attention. I thought it was an interesting topic. So this is really a signal to me to a desperation move on the part of Zelenskyy, and I don't know if there's any way back for him either to legitimacy or to restore the goals that he has in Ukraine. So we could see a new leader in Ukraine quite soon, possibly. But if that's the case, how would they come to power and what kind of legitimacy would they have? So I guess they're leaving Zelenskyy in power because at this point, at least he has it appears that he has some sort of legitimacy, at least for the Europeans and for the Pope. So the Pope has supported Zelenskyy as much as he could, and I think the Zelensky's star is starting to fade, and this kind of move to go visit the Pope is a very clear signal that this is the case. So this is my report for Zelenskyy and his meeting with the Pope. And if you have any comments, please do so below. I'd like to hear from you. And if you like this video, please share and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you back for another video. Take care. Bye-bye.